G'day, Noxie here. Welcome to the Valkyrie Racing channel. Hope you're doing well. Lemans 24 hours is around the corner. And I know that it's often the first time people drive a GTP, because why wouldn't you at Le Mans? And also that is the first time often people get back into a GTP for ages. So I've created a video about driving GTP at Le Mans. So videos in two parts. The first one is a guided lap of Le Mans. It is just to be it's a race lap. It's not the fastest possible lap. It's with heavy fuel. So it's designed to be a repeatable lap time. It's about 25.9, something around there. It's not meant to be the fastest lap possible, and that's intentional. It's a repeatable lap that you should be able to hopefully consistently achieve throughout a stint. So I'm not trying to set the fastest lap. I'm trying to set a stint lap, and that's a really important part of the distinction. Second part is a recording of the first 4 laps driving out of the pits, because I know a lot of people really struggle with cold tyres and GTPs. There's a bit of a description at the start of it, and then there's about 4 laps showing the progression as the tyres warm up. And if you pay attention to the telemetry in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you can see how to get them to warm up and not put it in the wall, basically, because that's where most people crash. I'll be driving with the Valkyrie Racing team for Le Mans. So if you're around, come and say g'day while we're doing that. That'd be great. We'd love to see you in chat. My liveries are by G&R Designs, and they're super cool. You don't see a lot of it on this one, but it's beautiful livery. So I cannot highly enough recommend go and see them if you want a livery. Also join the Discord. So I've created a Discord. It's called the Valkyrie Racing Channel Garage, I think, off the top of my head. We've got sections in there for if you're a driver looking for a team, or if you're a team looking for drivers. If you want to ask a question of a real coach, and that's not me, that's someone who's like 5.4k and a real life racing driver. We'll have a section in there in the next couple of days where you can ask a coach. And you can also, if you really want to, you can book some coaching sessions, stuff like that. If you're a streamer looking to build an audience, then we've got a section for that as well. Or if you just love sim racing, jump in. If you love racing, jump in. We'd love to see you there, mate. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button on your way out, so you can keep up to date with all of these amazing videos that I do in our live streams. And really do come and hang out with us, because when we're doing the endurance races, we have a really good time, and we'd love for you to join us. Hope you enjoy the video. I hope that it helps you in GTP and Le Mans. The whole point is hopefully, help you get a good result. That's what we're looking for. Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it, and I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you very much. Okay, so just talking through the fast lap here. We'll go through it slowly. Coming in the main straight. Now there's 2 ways you can do this. A straighter line through this area is actually about 0.01 quicker. I just keep forgetting to do it, if I'm completely honest. So you are flat out up here. Getting nice and wide for turn 1. Turning in. And so there's 2 ways to do this. One way is much safer, the other way is probably a little bit quicker. This is the quicker method. So coming across the curb, you can see that as I come through the turn, just at the apex of the turn, I'm on the brakes, starting to brake. And then as we're going through, I'm moving across to the right hand side. Sorry, I'll get rid of that. Moving across to the right hand side, braking fairly hard. The issue is over here, it's very easy to lock a brake, and if you lock a brake, you're going to go long. Description of the other way you can do it is to just keep your car on the track and not be on the curb. It's a lot easier to get the braking done that way. Slightly slower, but if you're fairly inexperienced, probably a better way to do it. Certainly less risk. And then you can see that we're down into second gear, or we will be down into second gear by the time. Okay, so coming up to this corner, braking, getting down into second gear prior to turn in. I'm actually changing gear as I turn in, about 150 k's now. Secret with this corner, left hand side, get as far left as possible. They've changed it a little bit. You used to be able to take a little bit of sand, but you can't anymore. To get your car all the way across to the left. You can be further across than this. I'm actually just a little bit wider than I'd probably like to be. And what you're trying to do is set up to be able to swing right as much as possible on the next corner, still in second gear. I'm just using throttle to just balance more than anything else there. And so you can see I've balanced it, then I've come off the throttle to get it to turn. I'm not far enough to the left here, in all honesty. Turn in with no throttle, get it to turn, and importantly, you want to take as much of the right hand side here, but without having your left hand tyres go across that white line. If you do that, let's have a look how close we are. Yeah, so if you do that, you get an off track and a slowdown. Cut it pretty fine there, let's be honest. Probably in a race situation you wouldn't cut it quite that fine, but it's that balance between being quick and not getting off tracks. And then you can see we're powering down pretty early. It's a bit slidey out of here, the old Caddy, which is fine. And then once you've caught the slide, up to full power, let it run really wide here. Again, it's that you've got to keep some part of your tyre on out, or half of the tyre out, like on the racetrack, not over the white line. And then your full power. So full power down here. Staying right to the left on the first part of the curb so you can open up the second part, and then on the right hand side still full power, and you're going as far across to the right as you can. I probably could have gone a little bit further right there in reality. Staying all the way across to the right, and you are off the power and starting to brake as soon as you cross this change in tarmac here. Now, you could do this corner in fourth gear. I like to do it in third, just because it rotates the car a bit better. You can see the braking is relatively heavy to start, but then you are trailing in, and you want to be touching the inside curb here with your left-hand wheels. It's very important because there's camber that holds you in to this particular turn. It's a little bit like the Nürburgring. A lot of the corners in the Nürburgring, the camber is more important than the line, so you're in nice and tight. Once we're in the camber, we can start applying some throttle. Important part of this corner, and if you hit the curb and this little bounce here actually helps you turn a little bit left, which is nice, and it allows you to get a little bit more power on as well. So important here, you're not coming out all the way to the right, you're coming out mid-track, because we're trying to be as straight as possible. There's a bump over here, we're trying to be as straight as possible before we get to the bump so that we don't end up sideways, and we're trying to get power on early to be quick out of the next turn. So we've got power all the way on. I think there's a little lift here. Yeah, so there's a little lift. This is the way I do it. You can go through here flat if you get it 100% right. Most of the time I don't. And just keep in mind, this is a race lap. This is not a balls out fast as possible lap. This is what I will be doing for 24, well, for however many stints I've got in the Le Mans 24. So it's not meant to be the quickest lap in the world. It's meant to be a safe but fast lap. So what we're doing is we're trying to get the car as straight as possible before we get to this bump. Getting across to the right, just clipping the curb, and you can see I've opened the wheel up. I've got the wheel nice and straight, and I've got full power on, and the cam is taking us where we need to go. The wheel is straight, the power is on, and as we go across the top of this rise, and this is really, really important, so many people crash here, the wheel is straight and the power is on. If your wheel is not straight here, and you have full power, it is going to get sideways, and a lot of people crash there through the race. Okay, so we're just power down. Lovely. Coming up to Tête Rouge, and as far across to the left as possible. There is a little bump just here, which I use as my reference point. Again, this is one of those corners you could probably roll in and not use the brakes, but I just touch a little bit of brake just to get, so let me be more clear about that. So this bump here is my reference point for when I want to touch the brakes and just get the front to turn. Very often with me, I will be touching the brakes slightly earlier than my reference point because I want to have my braking event at maximum at the point of my reference point. So just to explain that. So I touch on the brakes just to get the front to bite, and then we're taking a lot of curb here again, and we're already on throttle too. So you start using the throttle before you get to the apex on this one, because you take a little bit of brake to get the front to bite, and then you use the throttle to get the rear to just keep it slightly wide. That's not the right term. To keep a little bit more rotation, so using the throttle for a little bit more rotation. You are taking as much of this as you can. We'll go to rear chase again just to show these tyres need to be, again, on the track, but what you do over here is fine. And we're kind of half throttle at apex, and as soon as we come out, we're basically full. As soon as the car's settled and we come out, we're basically full throttle. Now, you're moving really quick here. There's plenty of downforce. So in a low speed corner, you wouldn't be full throttle without much steering lock on, I don't think. But in this one, because you've got the downforce there, you're all good. Letting it run wide, and here. But basically, I believe that you've got to keep these two tyres on the curb here. And again, this is a race lap. I don't want to be too close every time. I want to leave myself just a little bit of space. So you can see we've got pretty wide, still full power, and we've got to be back with our right hand wheels inside the track by the time we get to the end of the curb here. And then we're on to Mulsanne. So Mulsanne, just trying to drive the least amount of distance possible, and it's just flat out. And a lot of what's going to happen in the race is there's going to be drafting and cars and all sorts of stuff going on there. So it's really about just being in a straight line, being as safe as possible. All right, now braking point for, I think they call it the PlayStation chicane here. So there's a change in colour of the guardrail just here on my screen. That's what I use. It's probably, 125 metres, something like that. It's like 125, maybe 110. That's my braking point for this turn. You can see that I'm dropping the left-hand wheels over onto this kind of concretey bit. So there seems to be a little bit more grip out there, and it's a full braking event. So in the GTPs, when you're going in a straight line at high speed, you use 100% brake, and then you bleed it off as you come in. Because of the downforce, you can use full braking effort. But as you come in, you can see that I'm slowly, as the speed comes down, I'm lifting off the brake a touch. But it's not like a lot. Like, I think a lot of people smash the brake and then really quickly come off, but we're still doing 200 k's now. There's still plenty of downforce, so you don't have to come all the way off. All right, so clipping the cone, you do need to be a little bit careful. I did manage to give myself wheel damage on one of these cones the other day, so you can't hit it front on. You can clip it, that's fine. Braking event coming down, we're down into 4th gear. Personally, I take this first part of the chicane in 3rd gear. And what's important about these chicanes is getting your lines right. So, first part of the chicane, I've actually missed this one. I'm a little bit too far left. I would prefer to be further right because the curb turns you a little bit the way that you want to be turned and gives you a little bit wider entry for the second one. And these chicanes, the whole The most important bit is the exit, because the next bit is a big long straight. Trail braking in. Actually, I haven't trail braked in. So I've trail braked in to where I've got the car pointed the way I want it to go, and then kind of clip the curb, and there's just another small braking event. So you actually slow down a little bit between the first apex and the second apex. So getting it across to the right, still using that brake to balance the car, get the weight forward on the... It's not really to slow down that much. It's taking a little bit of speed off, but it's more about getting the weight on the front of the car. And then again, you want to cut as much as possible here. You see I'm rolling through now. So I'm off brakes. I've got it pointed the way I want it pointed. So by here, I've got it pointed where I want it pointed. And then the car's rotated nicely, and I'm taking as much of that curb as I can. Now, importantly, you get a slowdown if this tyre touches this curb. So you can be all the way across here, but if the right-hand tyres touch this curb, you will get a slowdown. So just to be aware. And again, in a race situation, you probably just want to give yourself a little bit of space. You're not trying to set 324s like the aliens, unless you're an alien, in which case you're probably not watching this because you don't need the track guide. Right. There you go. Bit of Noxy humour. Not. All right. So power on already, because again, we're going to use the throttle, but it's not like a full power. We're going to use the throttle to rotate the car to where we want to be on the exit. Now, interesting part about this, you can go all the way out to the wall here if you want to, as long as your left-hand wheels are outside the curb on the way out. So using throttle to rotate, as soon as the car's settled, which it is, the wheel's fairly straight, then it's on the power all the way on. And you see actually the car's sliding a little bit there. And it's important that, like the Cadillac in particular does slide on power. You do need to be comfortable with that. So a bit of practice on that. You can't kind of drive it like a GT3. There's a little bit more sliding in a GTP, particularly the Caddy. But using the throttle, again, to control where the rear's going and how much rotation we're getting, etc. And then it is, as soon as you've got it fairly straight, it's flat out. And you keep it flat. Take some of this curb, keeping it flat and letting the car run really wide on the exit so that you're not trying to... You can see I've got my steering angle as straight as I can possibly have it pretty much the whole time. And then we're out onto the straight going flat out. Obviously, one thing to note is the GT3s will drive with their wheels straddling the white line. GTPs can't do that. They're too low. They actually hit the ground and slow down. So don't do that. All right, we'll go up to the next chicane. And you'll see, just one thing to note, I actually cross that line where these intersections are because the crown in the road isn't there. So you don't touch and you don't slow down. Just a pointer. All right, coming up to the second chicane. Again, putting the right-hand wheels on the concretey bit because there's a bit more grip out here. Braking point is the 100 board for me, or that's my reference point. You see I'm actually touching the brake slightly earlier. This, by the way, isn't very good. The fact that I've got both throttle and brake on at the same time, I should be more quickly off the throttle. Just a little driving tip. But anyway, so again, 100% brake. So at the 100 board, 100% brake, straight line, and then that witch's hat or cone is around about your turning point, and you'll see that I'm coming down gears. We're in third gear for this turn. Trail braking it in. So trail braking in, I'm in fourth as I turn in, and I'm in third halfway through. Trail braking on the way through. And again, this is actually pretty quick. You're doing like 160 at apex here. More, 165 at apex. Rolling through, you want to get your left-hand wheels up over the curb. Again, I've left a little bit of margin there because it's a bit of a race lap rather than a real kind of, balls out lap. As far to the left as you can, using the curb. So you just see right there, that's really important. So you see there where the car flicks off the curb and there's a slight amount of trail brake, it rotates the car to the left. So you can see it's pointing out that way because we want to we want to be as far left off this curb as possible to straight line the rest of the chicane. So again, we're braking a little bit in between the two corners and shifting back down to second. Now you can take this in third. Personally, I like to take it in second just for the rotation. And again, so we rotate, we get the right hand side wheels across as much as we can. Again, whoops, sorry. You can't have these tyres touch this curb. If you do that, you get a slowdown. So just to be aware of that. Coming off the curb, so throttling to get it to rotate for me. There's still plenty of, and again, you're not going slow. You're doing nearly 130 k's an hour here, so you still have a little bit of downforce, but you've got to be careful here. It's very easy to spin. There's a bit of throttle control, and so now that we've got the wheels straight, we can get on the throttle. And even then, it's still not, because the car's kind of, actually, if you look at, the car's actually sliding there. So I'm using the throttle to rotate the car to get the back to just move for me a little bit, to get it nice and straight, so that when we get to this point, we can get right on the throttle. Now, two things. You can go over here, as long as you've got your right hand wheels on this curb, you're okay. You can be out here. That makes it faster to the apex, but slower out of the corner. Personally, I like to stay off that curb as much as I can and keep the throttle flat, because I find that it's then quicker down the next straight, which Le Mans is all about being quick down the straights, right? So that's what it's about. Now, the other thing is the car often will slide out of this corner. You'll often get oversteer. You can see that I'm actually steering towards the fence there. It's an early shift to fourth, so a short shift to fourth. If you're finding the car is sliding too much, then you can see I'm already in fourth gear. Not even out of the corner, I'm already in fourth because the car's starting to get a little bit of a tank slapper, and then changing to fourth gets it nice and straight, and then we're on to the next straight. And again, it's just about using as little distance as possible, scrubbing as little speed as possible, and in the race it'll all be traffic management. Okay, there's a cone there, so you line up with that cone. Don't hit it direct on, because like I said, you can actually give yourself wheel damage, which surprised me, but there you go. So here's your cone. That's kind of your turning point. What you're looking to do here, this is a fairly complex braking zone. What you're looking to do here is you're trying to get your car to be as straight as possible diagonally, to be at the outside down here through your braking event. So you want to be moving in as straight a line as possible with your wheel turned as least as possible without clipping the curb on the inside, because that can cause you to lock up, to be able to get to as close to 100% brake as possible at speed. So you diagonal line the car from this part of the apex to the entry point further down here. Let's see if I can demonstrate it. So yeah, I'm up around the 100% mark on my braking, and you can see that my steering angle is not changing, and I'm pointing out there, and we're coming out of speed, so I'm coming off the brakes a bit. Still not really changing the angle of, so that the steering angle's pretty straight the whole time. There's a little tiny adjustment down here, and you can see there's another cone here. So basically what you do through there is you line up one cone and the other cone. So you've got a cone out here. Let's go back. You've got a cone back here, and you kind of, like in your mind, trying to, hang on, let's do that a bit differently. In your mind, you're trying to kind of line up this cone with that cone down there in as straight a line as possible for your braking event. And that's pretty much how you do it. You can do this corner in second or first. I don't know which one's best at the moment. I'll kind of figure it out as we go. I think it's probably first. Just gets it to rotate a bit better. This is a much faster corner than you think it is. It looks like a bit of a hairpin, but it's actually a bit quicker than that. And your turn-in point is that cone. And obviously, as you're driving along, quite often that cone's not there, so you need to know where it is in your mind. and you are looking to put your right hand wheels basically over here on the bollards. You can actually almost take the bollards, so really kind of wide entry, and you're trying to square off the exit as much as possible, because again, big long straight following it, so the exit is more important than the entry. And you can see I've got a little bit of throttle on. Let's see, so you trail brake in to get it turned and pointed. GTP is a little bit different. There's less trail braking in a GTP than in a GT3, just so you know. So trail braked it to get it pointed, and then I'm using the throttle from there to use the rear of the car to get my rotation on throttle, and using lots of lock. So that's hence the reason I'm using first gear, because I just find it easier to get that rotation on throttle. Okay, so taking as much, I could have taken a little more there. Again, it's a race lap. It's not like a full-on fast quali lap. It's probably another half second I could find. This lap is a 25.9, which for a second split Lemans race would be a quick lap time in race trim. And remembering too, this has currently got 89. Yeah, I think at this point it's probably got about 60 litres of fuel on it. So you're going to save a good half second to second just on fuel dropping. So just to make the point, this is 100% a race lap. It is not like a quali out and out balls out lap. All right. So using throttle, not full throttle, and GTPs require deft throttle control. You can also obviously change your TC settings to make it a bit easier or whatever. But using throttle to rotate, and as soon as we're kind of off the curb and we've got the wheel straight, and you can see, this is really important too, I've got the rotation done, and once the rotation is done, I open that wheel up as quickly as I can and get the power down as quickly as I can. Okay, so that's kind of how you do it, keeping, and in fact in this case I've kicked the rear out a little bit just to help it go, and then get the power down. So there's a little bit of a correction there. Which I find with the Cadillac, out of slow corners, there always is a bit of a connection. I'm assuming it's got something to do with torque and diff settings and blah, 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 but whatever, it works. And then you're in a straight line, so you don't need to come back off this curb, just drive off it straight, just keep your right-hand wheels. And in fact, on this corner, you can take a little bit of dirt or sand or gravel or whatever that is. So you don't have to worry, you just need to be not more than one tyre width into the gravel, so you can take heaps of exit there, and you can just drive off the end, and that is fine. And then from there, for this straight, you want to just be straight. There's two kinks in it, two ideas about this. If you keep it to the right, there's less distance travelled. If you let it run out to the left, then there's less scrubbing of the front tyres. I actually don't know which one's faster. I keep doing it different ways and end up with the same result, so whatever. But yeah, so not hitting the curb, because hitting the curb actually slows you down. Okay, so in this case I've stayed to the right. And again, up here, not hitting the curb. So let's have a look. Yeah, so really close to it because you're travelling the least distance possible, but not actually hitting the curb. Okay. Coming down to Indianapolis, which is a hell of a corner, or complex of corners. Now, coming down here on the left-hand side, you cannot go half your car to the left of this line without getting an off-track and a slowdown. So it's important to keep it. Just put your left-hand wheels on the AstroTurf, or don't. Either way, it doesn't really matter. Whatever you're comfortable with, but don't go too wide. Now, turn in, and let's see if I can explain this properly. So I've actually started turning the wheel while I'm fairly flat. But what happens is, as I turn in, I'm off throttle, and then there's a light braking event through, because you're doing 300 k's an hour, light braking event. You've still got heaps of downforce, so it's okay, the car's going to stick. And you're lightly braking through the first part of Indianapolis. I come off it a little bit and just touch a little bit of throttle just to settle my car. Tommy Patero and Jim Bowen, a lot of guys, they don't do that little touch on the throttle. They just gently trail brake through this bit. It's up to you how you want to do it. I mean, ultimately, Tommy and Jim are a tenth of 2/10 quicker than me, so maybe that's the way to do it. But for a race, I want to make sure my car's stable. As soon as we are through the main part of that turn, then we're on the brakes. Straightening the car up, getting the wheel straight, on the brakes. Fairly big braking event, but not a full braking event because you do have some lateral load on the car. So you're at like 90%, not 100% here. I think by this stage you probably could go close to 100%, but the speed's coming off, so you're starting to lose a bit of downforce. Staying to the right as much as possible, trying to hit this curb on the right hand side to let yourself swing back in. In fact, you can even go a little further out here if you want to. Changing down gears, starting to come off the brake because we're about to turn in. You can turn in at about, again, you can take this in third or second. I prefer second in the GTP. Swinging in from fairly wide. Now I like to change to second. Again, it's fine. It's still trail braking. There's a long trail on this. And what you're aiming to do with Indianapolis is get your left-hand wheels right over here somewhere. Really open up the exit. Use as much of the inside as you can. And as soon as you've got it on the curb, then start using a bit of throttle again to rotate. Again, not a 100% throttle yet. It's come off the curb. It's settled. Opening the wheel onto 100% throttle and opening the wheel up, and you can go all the way out here and take a bit of the gravel as well. I think I missed it this time. Tommy will be very disappointed in me. So you can take a little bit of gravel out here. Taking a little bit of gravel doesn't slow you down here at all. Then you got this nice little short chute. All you do is get across to the left-hand side, and your braking point is about 75 meters. I actually brake a little early on this one. So I find it hard to get a reference here. I tend to try to use the end of this Armco as a reference point for my braking, but I struggle a bit with it. But yeah, it's about 75. It is just a very quick touch of full brake, and then you are trailing or coming off the brake as the speed comes off, and then trailing all the way in. I take this in first. You can take it in second if you wish. There's two ways to do this corner. You can come all the way out and have your left-hand wheels outside the curb and then turn in, or you can stay on the inside of the curb. This way the braking is a little less efficient, but the exit's better. This way the braking is more efficient, but the exit's not as good. Again, it's entirely up to you. It's easier to do the one where you're on the road. And again, if you're fairly new, that might be the best way to go about it. It's only going to cost you 1/10 compared to, this line here. So braking, and we're trailing. Turn in at the cone. The witch's hat. First gear. Now it's very easy to lock a rear brake here and to spin on the rear. So just keep that in mind. It's in the race, it's best to brake slightly earlier rather than later, or always brake earlier rather than later, basically. Taking curb on the right-hand side, take as much as you can. First gear, let the curb help you rotate. So you can see, again, just as I come off the curb there, the car rotates because of the way it bounces. And then we're using throttle also to keep the rotation. This corner, the car always slides in the rear. Probably just because I'm using too much throttle, but that seems to work for me. So whatever works for you, if you're a little bit less throttle, not sliding, great, or whatever works. And then you're on throttle again, big long straight, exit more important, keep it pinned, and away we go. The line on these kinks, I've tested all the different ones. It makes absolutely no difference. You get there at exactly the same amount of time no matter what you do. Don't know why, just is the way it is. Right, coming up to the dreaded Porsche curves. And these things are awesome when you get them right, and your car's dead if you get them wrong. So, flat up until about the green AstroTurf there, and then off. Now, I could be wider here. I probably haven't given myself as much entry as I should. Braking event begins there. again, I tend to use 5th here. You can use 6th and use your trail braking to get it to turn. Don't love it that much personally, so down into 5th for me. But it's actually a fairly big brake. It's a surprisingly big brake. Down into 5th, and then trail braking in, but being very careful, because if you leave too much trail on here, you lose the rear and you end up in the wall out there somewhere. So better to roll in here and be slightly wide of the apex than to try to hold onto the brakes and get yourself at the apex. It's funny, but the Porsche curves, if you get one of them wrong, it doesn't cost you that much time. So it's better to, especially in a race situation, if you've missed your apex, just give it away. Just give the apex away, let it be, just slow the car down a little bit, get it back in line for the next corner. That's kind of I see all the time, people without too much experience, they've missed their braking point, but they still just try to make the apex anyway, and that's often where they crash. Okay, so rolling it in at this point, and we are aiming to touch the start of this curb and actually put our wheels on the curb. So yes, we're doing 200 and something k's now, but we are trying to clip this curb. So I've missed it a little bit there. Again, that's kind of what I'm saying. I'm not trail braking too hard. If I've missed it, I've missed it. That's okay. We've not missed it by too much. And then you're staying to the right as much as you can. Back on throttle here. You can see we're moving pretty quickly. It's a lot of fun actually. And then flat, getting the car to turn. So it's quite I won't say violent, but it's a strong input to the wheel. And then in this case, I've managed to almost keep it flat, but not quite. I wasn't quite going to hit my apex, so I've just lifted slightly to get the front to turn in a little more. We're 250 k's an hour. What we're aiming to do is to put our wheels just on that curb, not upset the car too much. And again, I've missed it. Get it rotated in the middle of the corner so that we can get the power on as much as possible on the way out. And again, not 100%. I haven't quite got that one right, but running it wide, but don't hit the wall. It's very, very easy to hit the wall. It's very, very easy to damage your car. In the race situation, give yourself half a car length or don't come out onto the curbs. It's fine. It won't make that much difference in terms of pace, but obviously if you damage your car, then that will make a lot more difference. You can keep it pinned through the next corner. So I should mention too, I've shifted up to 6th. So let's have a look. Let's just have a look at the progression of the gears. So let's go back. So the progression of the gears, 5th gear, turning in, trying to clip that curb, which I missed, and then you're on the throttle, bringing it up, turn in, a little lift, onto 6th, letting it roll, power, and if you get this right, you can keep it pinned. If you don't, it's just a little lift. Either way, it doesn't really matter that much. So you can see as little steering input as possible so I can keep the power down. We're like raising speed. We're 260 something k's an hour and clipping this curb on the left-hand side. Again, there's two different ways to do the next corner. I personally like to keep it like to get the speed through this corner and then roll out of it. So Tommy, as an example, so Tommy Patero, who we race with and against quite a lot, he will tend to lift here and keep his car more to the left on the exit. And we've actually measured it, Tommy and I, and it's about the same time it takes to do both ways. So there's a brake here. The next corner for me, 4th gear, with a trail brake in, which is really important to get the front of the car to turn. It's a light trail, but it's trail. And then mid-corner, you're just kind of letting it roll. So you can see there's a moment there where the car's got no foot input. And then, again, difference of opinion. Some people roll a little further. Personally, I like to use a little bit of throttle to rotate the rear of the car and to bring it back. Okay, on the exit of this part of the Porsche curves, you want to be across to the right-hand side as far as humanly possible, even taking a little bit of grass. Because the next corner is super weird, and I can't remember what this one's called, and it's called something. You want to take the grass on the inside here. You want to get as far across to the left as possible. So you see I've come all the way across to the right. I have lifted to get some weight on the front wheels, and if you watch my steering input, it's a pretty heavy steering input to get it to turn. And then again, I'm balancing on throttle. So we're still doing 200 k's an hour. So balancing on throttle, and if you get this right, take a little bit of grass here. Have I done it this time? Yeah, so take a little bit of grass here. You can see there. You're aiming to be as straight as possible on the exit. You're aiming to be as far left as possible on the curbs here, even going across those sausages if you can get to them. And then here is where I personally get most of my off tracks. This is, generally speaking, where the front washers are wide and I end up out here somewhere. So controlling the car through here is the really important bit. So you can see that I'm not full throttle, I'm not trying to be really quick on throttle, I'm balancing, and I'm using still again as little steering input as possible. And then I'm using the bounce off the curb to use my throttle to get it to turn as much as I can. Even then, it's still kind of washing out. You can see the front end is washing out there. If you are these wheels on the white line, by the time you get past this curb, that's a big slowdown. It's really frustrating. I hate it. But, that's what it is. So this corner is super important. I find that the fast guys are fast through this corner specifically, is the one where the fast guys are fast. So, taking as much as you can over here, getting the throttle on as early as you can, not washing out wide. It's all very hard to do. Then through here, you're just going as straight as possible. Clip the curbs, that's fine. Okay, this Corvette curves, I think. Yeah, take as much as you can here. And then lining up for your braking event for the last chicanes, the forward chicanes. Personally, I like to go out into the pit lane a little bit. You don't have to. Braking point is kind of halfway through here. Yeah, so you can see I'm just starting to brake now. So it's halfway through the pit lane entry. Braking, big brake, down to third, and using heaps of curb. But you'll see too, there's not a lot of kind of foot or steering input here, because it's very easy to spin from there into that wall. It's very easy to spin on the way out there. So we're keeping the car nice and neutral through this portion of the corner. As you can see, and the other thing is you've actually got to keep slowing down for the next part of the forward chicane through this part of the forward chicane. So you've got to have a little bit of brake coming through here. You're just washing off a bit of speed. This is actually a brake to slow down, as well as to get a little bit of weight over the front of the car. And then coming out, and again, just to settle the car, I will use a little bit of throttle. And then you want to get back across to the right and be, I don't even know how to explain this. The throttle is just to balance the car, right? So we'd come out, I'm using a bit of throttle. You don't have to, you can roll it through there. As soon as you've got it settled on the brakes, straightening the wheel, you're trying to do a diagonal brake to about here somewhere and then turn in. So diagonal brake, but it's not a big heavy brake because you'll lock a wheel, because you've got the car is doing all sorts of things. And then turn in. So I think that's a gear change there, isn't it? No, I've actually used, I've used a little bit of throttle just to get myself balanced there. So balance is everything here. It's not about trying to be the latest of the late breakers. It's not about trying to be the earliest on throttle. Well, being early on throttle out of here is good, but mainly it's about balancing the car and making sure you're not going in too fast. Using heaps of curb on the left hand side. So these sausage curbs are kind of out of play because you bounce over them. So using the curb to bounce yourself over the top of these sausage curbs and land on the other side of this curb. So this is kind of fun when you get it right. You are literally aiming to take off in that line and then land, and you can see landing on the curb on the other side. So that's it's kind of a little secret to this corner. Again, it's such a Mickey Mouse corner, but you can lose so much time here. It's a really frustrating corner. two theories on coming out of here. A lot of people will not hit this curb here and try to get a better exit. Fine, that's a good way to do it. I am working on trying to bounce again, just like I did on the other one. Bounce the car the right way to get it to land on the other side. And then for me, using throttle to rotate the car on the way out. And you'll see there's a counter steer here because the car will slide. Go all the way out to the sand or the gravel and then flat out. And again, you don't have to come back out here. You can just drive straight off. As long as you don't hit the grass up here, you're fine. And across the line. Okay, so on to how to drive a GTP on cold tyres, which is a challenge. You'll notice if you look at the telemetry in the bottom left hand corner there, very, very, very low throttle inputs, especially when you first come out of the pits, and you do not get to full throttle until 4th gear. You'll see going through the Dunlop curves, taking it super easy, super easy. Very low throttle, off the throttle over that bump that we talked about in the lap guide, and even then you can see that even just rolling through Terre Rouge with the tyres just going slightly too fast, and then we're getting spun. So you can't go to full throttle below 3rd gear on brand new tyres on GTP. You will see that during the Le Mans, most crashes happen for GTPs in particular, and the LMP2s are the same, straight out of the pits. So it's worth taking a bit of extra time to get it right. It's definitely, like, if you lose 2 seconds here but you don't crash, all worth it. So going in a straight line is fine. It's a bit of a kind of maths equation, if you like. The braking is not too bad. The lateral load is not as bad. It's the throttle that is really the big problem. So I tend to, when I first come out of the pits, my braking points are, my braking zones are 1.5 times longer than when the tyres are warm. My throttle inputs, I literally am not full throttle until the car is straight, and no more than like 50% throttle if the wheels turn, and if the wheel is turned a lot, then no throttle at all, just roll it through. So you can see that here, there's no throttle, tiny amounts of throttle until the car is straight, and then once I'm in about top of 2nd, 3rd gear, then I'll go to full throttle. Points to explain here is that the blue section under the gear selector on the steering wheel, when it's blue, they're cold. This is Cadillac, by the way, using the GMG setup. You can't push 100% until the tyres are about 1.72 to 1.75 bar on that particular readout there. So that's when you know that you can push. At this temperature, which is about 20 degrees, it takes 3 or 4 laps. It really does. It takes quite a while to get there. So you can't get to a full pace until that. So you would expect that your first lap out of the pits might be, say, a 3:35 in comparison. So my pace is about a 3:26 on fuel with warm tyres. So 11 seconds slower. You see that we're rolling through here. There's not much throttle. There's very little brake application happening. At no point through the Porsche curves have I got to full throttle until I'm out on the straight part. So first lap, braking distance about 1.5 times longer, really soft throttle. Second lap, kind of 1.25 times longer braking distances, and slowly building up. So it takes about 4 laps till it's really there. So I've recorded 4 laps here. Feel free to watch them all. I hope it helps. I hope keep an eye on the throttle and braking inputs, and how to get to getting those tyres warm where you can push. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope this has been helpful. Remember that the guided lap is not low fuel, fastest possible lap. It is a race lap, and so that's what I've intentionally done to try and help people get through the 24-hour Le Mans coming up in a week. If you're watching this and you have a better line or a better suggestion or a better breaking point or whatever, please put it in the comments. The whole point of this is to learn. If you've got an insight to share, please do so. If you've got a comment as to whether you found it helpful or not helpful, then please do that as well. Also, if you don't mind, please like, subscribe, click the little bell button thing, all that stuff that we all ask for. I am really committed to building a community-based channel, Discord, all that stuff, and with a focus on trying to be helpful, trying to help people enjoy their sim racing experience. Soon I'll be releasing a video about how to get out of rookies in 3 races, and that'll be the next kind of how-to. We will be taking on the NEC this week, myself and Sketchy Gurger. Come and join in for that. Come and join chat, be part of it. Thank you very much for watching, really appreciate it. I hope you find this helpful. I hope this helps you with Le Mans. Afterwards, come back and comment again. Tell us if it was useful. Tell us if it helped you get through and what position you got. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you have an awesome day. And see you for the next one. Thanks. Bye.
Cool.